We begin in Johannesburg, where the first ever G20 summit on African soil was defined by a pretty dramatic diplomatic standoff. Right in the middle of it all was South African President Cyril Ramaphosa. He shot back at criticism from the U.S. Treasury over the summit's massive guest list with this line right here. And let me tell you, it earned him a huge round of applause for championing a truly inclusive approach.
But you know that spirit of inclusivity? It was seriously put to the test. The whole summit was marked by a tense back and forth with the United States, which, you won't believe this, initially boycotted the entire event. Let's walk through how this whole thing went down.
So check this out. It all happened so fast. In early November, boom, the U.S. announces a full boycott. By the 19th, Washington was trying to literally block the summit's final declaration. But wait, the very next day, a complete 180. President Ramaphosa announces they're back at the negotiating table. By the 21st, though, the other shoe dropped. The U.S. confirmed it was only sending a low-level diplomat, basically just for the photo op, not for any real talks.
Despite all that drama, Pretoria didn't even flinch. They just pushed right ahead, adopting the final declaration on day one, essentially saying, with or without you to the U.S. And what's really fascinating is what's in the declaration. It doubles down on the UN Charter for Resolving Conflicts and puts the priorities of the Global South front and center. This is a huge signal that African leaders are determined to set their own agenda.
And it all culminates in this, a massive, unified call to reform global governance. The declaration explicitly demands an expansion of the UN Security Council. The goal? To finally give a real voice, a real seat at the table to regions that have been on the sidelines for way too long, like Africa, the Asia-Pacific, and Latin America.
Okay, so this push for a new global order. It's not just talk happening in fancy summit halls. Across the continent, the geopolitical chessboard is being completely redrawn. Alliances are shifting, and one name keeps popping up: Russia. It seems they're emerging as a major player, stepping into vacuums left behind by others.
Take Mali, for instance. Russia's Africa Corps is right there on the ground, providing very real, tangible security support. They're helping the government tackle a massive fuel crisis by actually securing the fuel convoys that militants have been targeting. That's a game changer for day-to-day stability.
Then you've got the Central African Republic, where cooperation is going even deeper. You have Russian instructors helping secure that really volatile border with Sudan and disarming rebel groups. There's even talk of a potential Russian military base. And it's not just military stuff. Moscow was also instrumental in getting that international ban on the country's diamond exports lifted. A big diplomatic win.
Meanwhile, over in war-torn Sudan, the government is painting a very specific picture of Russia. They're calling Moscow a true friend and partner, looking for help with post-conflict reconstruction. And the key phrase they keep using? No colonial baggage. That's a very deliberate message.
So what you end up with are two completely different stories. On one hand, Russia frames its approach as a partnership of equals, all about security and absolutely no meddling. On the other hand, you have Western analysts who see it very differently, viewing these moves as Russia exploiting instability and undermining democratic institutions. And while all this is going on, other global powers are definitely recalibrating. France is shrinking its diplomatic presence in Mali. The EU is playing a dual role, slapping sanctions on rebels in Sudan while also signing a major critical minerals pact with South Africa. And you're seeing new players step up too, like Qatar, which is becoming a key mediator in the Great Lakes region.
All right, let's switch gears to our security briefing. There are several key hotspots where conflicts and counterinsurgency ops are really shaping what's happening on the ground.
First up, Sudan, where the conflict is absolutely intensifying. We're getting reports that the National Army is making significant advances against the rebel RSF forces, especially in North and West Kordofan. And why does that matter? Well, those provinces are crucial for controlling key transport routes and resources, so these advances could be a major turning point.
Over in Nigeria, a heartbreaking security crisis is unfolding. A staggering 215 students were kidnapped from a school in Niger State. The ripple effect has been massive, forcing the government to shut down schools across several northern states just to try and prevent more attacks.
Now, over in Côte d'Ivoire, we're seeing security forces go on the offensive to protect the country's natural resources. A really big operation just dismantled 10 illegal gold mining sites, and they've already detained 6 suspects, a major crackdown.
But it's not all bad news. There's actually a glimmer of hope coming out of the Great Lakes region.
The DRC and Rwanda are reporting real progress in U.S.-mediated peace talks. They've got a plan to disarm rebel forces and have even set a date for a major peace summit in January 2026. So fingers crossed on that one.
Okay, let's talk money and development. The economic front is buzzing with stories of innovation, big investments, and new partnerships that are totally reshaping the landscape.
You want to talk about a massive shift? Look no further than South Africa's energy scene. Sure, the constant power cuts got people interested in solar, but now it's just exploding for one simple reason: pure economics. It is now 30 to 50% cheaper to get your power from the sun than from the grid. It's a no-brainer for homes and businesses.
And speaking of looking to the future, the United Arab Emirates just dropped a bombshell, a $1 billion investment. That's a billion with a B. All of it is going to build out artificial intelligence infrastructure across Africa, targeting huge sectors like education, healthcare, and even climate adaptation.
And this is all part of a much bigger trend, you know? Countries across the continent are diversifying their economic partnerships. You've got the EU signing that landmark deal with South Africa for critical minerals. Russia is looking to boost trade through the massive African Continental Free Trade Area. And then you have countries like Belarus partnering with Niger on agricultural development. The old economic map is being completely redrawn.
But listen, economic power isn't just about who's signing trade deals. There's another kind of power struggle going on, one that happens behind the scenes. We're talking about the fight against massive corporate lobbying campaigns that are trying to shape public health policy.
And we just saw a huge development on this front, in what you can only call a massive win for public health. Nigeria has slapped British American Tobacco with this record-breaking $110 million fine for anti-competitive practices.
But make no mistake, this fight is far from over. This is the playbook, uncovered by researchers in South Africa, showing how the tobacco industry tries to delay anti-smoking laws. It's all here. Funding slick campaigns that scream about job losses, creating fake grassroots groups to create opposition, publicly attacking scientists, and of course calling any new regulation nanny-state overreach. It's a classic strategy.
So when you step back and look at the whole picture, from the high-stakes diplomacy at the G20 to the shifting military alliances to the backroom battles in corporate boardrooms, it's crystal clear. There is a complex, multi-layered struggle for Africa's future happening right now. And it really leaves us with one critical question to think about. With all of these forces competing for influence, who truly holds the power on the continent today?